I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield.
I'm Kate Walton-Elliott.
And we're here at CES 2019 for the second day of our CES 2019 coverage.
Day 2. It has been crazy. We have been to see so many people.
Yep, we've had 11 different events in total. Most of them, interestingly, have covered Tier 1 parts suppliers, a couple of automakers.
Yeah.
But because there are so many different things happening today, we did split up. So Kate and I have gone to different events. We've had enough people to take 2 sets of cameras, which has been rather nice. Apologies for yesterday's video. It was a little yellow. We do know it was late at night and we had the wrong camera settings. But anyway, let's get on with our day. Kate, you started off by going to Bosch, a Tier 1 parts supplier. So tell us a little about that.
So we talked about Tier 1 parts suppliers yesterday, and Bosch, who do supply a large number of parts for other automakers, are really keen to get into the market of selling those services that are going to be required for autonomous driving vehicles and connected home vehicles. There's a real theme this year of mobility devices as part of your connected home and part of your connected lifestyle and living in your car, seemingly. Bosch are really trying to make sure that they're getting in on the action for Internet of Things connectivity. So how those devices connect between your car, your home, and your smartphone. Their suite of applications that they have, their sensors, and the services that they unveiled will enable them to really pull in basically the money from that and make sure that auto suppliers are using them as their primary supplier.
So a lot of these Tier 1 parts suppliers are hoping to develop products that they will sell to automakers and be the ones that the automakers choose. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see autonomous cars and cloud connectivity like next year,
No.
because car development takes a couple of years, right? So
Yeah.
Bosch and all these other Tier 1 parts suppliers are getting ahead of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we will talk about that because we did see it from most companies today. But really, they're trying to get in early. They're trying to get in so that when car companies are developing the prototypes for these autonomous vehicles, they pick their hardware now. And that means that later down the line, when they're producing them for the mass market, they pick the same hardware again.
It's a bit like a couple of years ago when electric car tech was just plastered all over CES because companies were building these new drivetrains, new battery packs, bringing them to market and saying, we're going to have electric cars in a couple of years' time. There's not been so much electric car tech this year because they're already here.
Yeah.
And all the major car companies are building cars or are planning to build cars. And that's why some of you have asked why we're not covering so much electric car tech. And that's one of the reasons, because it's been focused in other areas. I went to talk Robotics, which was a bit of an interesting presser. It wasn't actually called a press conference. They called it something else. I can't remember what it was. The whole thing wasn't honestly very well put together. But we did learn that Talk Robotics are going to be working with Transdev, which is a name we've heard before.
Yes, and we'll hear again today.
Which we will hear again today, on an autonomous shuttle platform. And they are working on something called an L4 Asimov software, good old Asimov.
Good old Asimov.
On working on autonomous shuttles that will be expanded. There currently are these shuttles in operation in parts of France, but they're going to expand the operation, and that is their goal. They believe very strongly that the future of transportation includes autonomous robotaxis, is maybe what we'd call them.
And that's another theme that we've been seeing this year. There's a great deal of talk about mobility solutions where people don't actually own the vehicle.
Right.
They summon it, talking about the amount of time that's wasted where vehicles are just sat idle.
Right. And it's been interesting because some companies have really focused on this future vision where we won't own a car, where other parts suppliers and companies have said, actually, we think personal car ownership is going to continue for many, many, many years, which brings us very nicely to Ferruccia. It's another parts supplier.
Yes.
I really apologize that this is all parts supplier coverage, but these guys are really important to the cars that you buy because without them, the cars that you buy won't have the technology that you want in them. And Ferruccia talked about some of the challenges that it sees for the future. It talked about some of the negative consequences of kind of where we're going as a society. And those include millennials who don't want to drive as much, aging population, people not wanting to
may
drive.
not be able to drive
or,
as much.
or may not be able to drive either because they can't see or they have mobility problems.
Yeah.
Talking about urbanization as being a major, major push into why they are doing what they're doing, as well as the massive growth in Asia of people becoming middle class, I guess is the way you'd look at it.
Yeah.
An increasingly large middle class population.
And the increasing number of vehicles that are likely to be sold in those markets, particularly higher end, more luxury vehicles.
Right.
Less of the sort of cheaper, more basic vehicles.
And Ferrucci also talked about some of the mega trends that we're seeing, the connected, autonomous, ride sharing and electrified future. But there was a bit of a caveat with that.
It wasn't really something that they explicitly said, but it was quite clear from what they were not saying that they are hoping to keep selling the same old stuff they've been selling in the Western world to developing nations.
We went to the Continental Presser together, and there was a whole lot of stuff.
Yes.
Now, Continental, again, another tier one parts supplier.
Absolutely.
And they're focusing on a whole suite of different things.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at V2X, so communication between vehicles and the environment, so traffic signals, lights, but also communication between vehicle to vehicle, communication also between vehicles and pedestrians. So trying to reduce the risk of accidents by signifying ahead of time that someone's going to cross the road, those kinds of things.
And one of the interesting things that they were talking about that I've never really seen before is the idea of smart intersections. It's about 20 years, the average lifespan of your car.
Yeah.
And so they said, it's going to take 20, maybe 30 years before everybody is driving around, or a significant proportion of people are driving around in a car with vehicle technology.
Yeah, and that means that you're going to have cars on the road that are older and not connected. And how is your autonomous vehicle or your intelligent vehicle going to identify those risks? Because you have people who are going to be driving erratically or just driving normally, but not driving the way that an AI-controlled vehicle would drive.
So where this smart intersection comes in is instead of relying on the cars themselves to have the technology on board, the smart intersections have sensors, cameras that can detect people who don't have connected vehicles.
Yes.
And then alert people who do have connected vehicles of the presence of those road hazards. That's basically how it works.
But that does have a significant caveat in that a lot of areas do not have the funds to even repair the infrastructure they have.
We saw a demonstration of multimodal transportation of the future.
Yes.
In which, the cloud and your connected vehicle software and your smartphone helps figure out what route is best for you. One of the examples given was, I like to cycle to work, so I'll drive within a sensible distance of the office and then I'll cycle to work. But there are some days when I've got a presentation, so I might drive a little closer to work and then take an autonomous Robotaxi to my destination.
Yeah.
It's a lovely utopian view of the future, but it's always felt just a little bit far away, and I'm not sure that we're quite yet on the cusp. All of these companies seem very convinced that they are. They say orders are increasing, and they say that more and more people are wanting this technology.
Yeah.
So Continental's obviously going somewhere in the right direction.
Absolutely.
But Continental finished in a way that we didn't expect.
No, not at all.
So tell us about that.
So one of the problems that you face if you're delivering your goods autonomously, you have your autonomous vehicle that turns up at your house. Well, how does the package get from the vehicle to the house? It's not going to float.
I'd always thought a catapult.
The catapult.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Unless it's marked fragile, in which case you'd need a net to catch it. But they had a better idea. Or at least a more interesting idea.
So do you remember Spot? The, was it Spot they called it? The Boston Robotics dog?
Oh, yes, the Boston Robotics dog.
Well, Continental's made one of those.
Yes, it will carry the package from the vehicle to the door. And then it had a kind of lifty thing to just, deposit it carefully.
It looked just like Boston Robotics.
It did.
Dogs.
And it danced for us.
Like the Boston Robotics dogs?
Yes.
Except it didn't twerk.
It does not twerk.
Which the Boston Robotics one does.
It might twerk.
So,
they just didn't show it's twerking.
Yes, indeed. Well, Never mind.
No. So I disappeared after that.
You did?
I did. I headed off to see Qualcomm, who are another supplier, but they are a supplier more of components for computers traditionally.
Qualcomm are known also for the charging pads for your phone, your car, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
And they're
absolutely.
Snapdragons.
And for the Snapdragon processor, which is in an awful lot of cell phones.
If you have an Android phone, it's most likely got a Qualcomm Snapdragon of some description in it.
But they also do a lot of mobile related technology for cell phone networks. So they do 3G, 4G, and now they are doing 5G. And they are one of the primary companies developing 5G and selling it. So they really feel like 5G is going to bring ubiquitous connectivity to vehicles.
And one of the reasons, I guess, because of that is 5G can transmit a higher data rate than 4G.
Yeah.
And all of these autonomous car, cloud car, connected car features require immense amounts of data transfer, right?
Yeah, they were at times talking about petabytes of data being transferred over time. So that is going to be...
That's insane.
It is.
So Qualcomm are coming out with 5G, and they had an announcement, right?
Yeah, they had an announcement. So Ford from 2022 will be doing V2X technology, or CV2X, which is the cellular V2X technology in apparently every single new Ford sold from 2022.
So several people have commented that we are not wearing the same kind of clothes that we wore last year, although you are wearing the same jacket and I am wearing the same blazer, whatever you want to call it. But we are wearing different T-shirts. So being a little more nerdy this year.
Yeah.
You have a digital T-shirt.
I do.
You got complimented on that earlier.
I did.
So your dad used to have a connection with that company?
Yes, my dad worked for Digital. He was a designer there. So I, pay homage to Digital and their sad loss.
So my T-shirt today is ALS can kiss my fuzzy butt. Yes, and it's got...
What exactly does that mean?
Okay, so there's a fursuit performer.
Yep.
Who goes by the name of Dog Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Hi Dog Bomb is obviously not his real name. He works in the veterinary field. Really nice, genuine guy. He has been fighting ALS for some time now. And he is a real inspiration because unlike so many people, when they get a diagnosis of a fatal condition, they just kind of go, oh, well,
yeah,
and that's it. He's fighting it every single step of the way. And we've done some charity walks, buying this T-shirt, sent money to ALS research. So I've been supporting ALS research lately because this guy he's just such a lovely, energetic guy, and he is not giving up. And his doctors keep telling him to slow down, and he says no. So there we go. I ended up at Toyota.
Yes.
Toyota had a really big press conference. Toyota was talking initially about some of its achievements. It's talked about how hydrogen fuel cell technology is being pushed forward. And interestingly, it started off by talking about how many cars it's electrified.
That's an interesting choice
the
of words.
majority of the cars on the road, it said, are, the majority of the electrified cars on the road today are either Toyota or Lexus. Of course, electrified rather than electric.
It's a very important distinction.
It is a very important distinction. And also, when referring to hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, the term electric hydrogen fuel cell vehicle or hydrogen electric vehicle were used, as opposed to battery electric vehicle. So Toyota is very keen to let everyone know we are an electric zero-emission vehicle. But one of the main points of Toyota's presentation was its push towards autonomy and push towards the future with something that it's calling its Guardian, Toyota Guardian. And it's a system that it's describing as being a little bit like modern autopilot systems on fighter jets. So it doesn't completely take over flying for you. It doesn't completely take over driving. It lets the driver state their intentions to the car using the controls.
Okay.
And then if the car thinks something bad is going to happen, it's going to intervene. But unlike, your lane keep assist and other things that you can feel the system constantly there, Toyota is talking about it in a much more, they called it a merged envelope or an envelope merge system, where it's a little bit more subtle in the way it works.
So is this some kind of attempt to reduce the impact of distracted driving? Because
It's-
you've seemingly ceded control to the vehicle, but the vehicle is not really doing that for you
No,
yet?
it's about improving safety on our roads.
Okay.
And when they opened this segment, they actually showed a video footage from the Toyota Research Institute. The majority of the presser was being run from the standpoint of the TRI, or the perspective of the TRI. And they showed footage of an accident, a 3-car accident involving a TRI vehicle. It wasn't in autonomous mode at the time of the accident. It was being driven by an employee. There was another employee in the car, but while the autonomous vehicle system was turned off, the sensors weren't. And it was involved in quite a nasty 3-car accident. And so Toyota has taken the data from that and used a virtual AI development system. Again, this is something we heard about last year from NVIDIA.
Yeah.
It's coming back again this year. You train your autonomous vehicle software and hardware in a virtual world, which is very meta.
Yes.
But it enabled Toyota to come out with if we had been running in this situation, what the software would have done would have been to accelerate away from the accident and not only save itself from a collision, but also ensure that the other 2 cars didn't collide, because in accelerating away, it made space for both of the other vehicles to exist without colliding, which is very interesting.
That is a very interesting change.
And Toyota says it wants to make its Toyota Guardian available to everyone in the industry,
Okay.
which
Now,
it hasn't said how.
is this one of these things that we've been hearing a lot of? Another key word that we've heard a lot this year is open, but it's not usually very well defined. They say it's open and then don't tell you how or in what way. And is this another one of those?
It wasn't clear. I think Toyota will probably expect people to license the technology, but Toyota was very clear that it wants people, other automakers, to use its software and hardware to reduce fatalities on the road. So while I was at Toyota, you were where?
I went to go and see ZF, our good old friend ZF, who I think we saw last year. So they are showing off their sensor array and their autonomous vehicle platform.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing. But theirs is based on the NVIDIA Drive system, which we saw last year, but which is now much more powerful again.
So it's not the Pegasus anymore, or is it something else?
They didn't give its actual name. You could see the chip on the board in the photographs. So
Okay.
I think we need to go and talk to NVIDIA about what's going on there. But they were talking about level 4 autonomy. And they were also discussing the fact that they now are fitting vehicles for commercial and industrial environments to do autonomous driving.
Right. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it sounds very similar to what Valeo were talking about, which is where I went after lunch.
Yeah.
Valeo, again, tier 1 parts supplier, talking about all the things that they're going to be working with. Honestly, it wasn't a very entertaining press conference, but mobility, connected online, car, software, ride sharing, electrification. It's like we should have made a bingo card.
We totally should have made a bingo card.
But anyway, after lunch, while I was at Valeo, you were at Hyundai.
Yes, and Hyundai were sadly quite disappointing. Hyundai didn't bring any of their vehicles to show us. They didn't really reveal a great deal about new vehicles coming.
Well, no. You said something to me about software.
I did. So it turns out that Hyundai have collected a lot of data because they have a lot of sensors in their cars, and they are continuing to collect data. In fact, they think they'll have the most data from connected vehicles available by 2022. So that's nice, because now they have lots of stuff to sell.
I'm sure that Cory Doctorow is going to have lots to say about that.
Yeah, I can't say I was very impressed. So they are talking about services which a lot of vehicle manufacturers are very keen to have, where you can buy an app and you can customize your car using an app like you do with a smartphone and make your car the place that you want to be, because you obviously want to spend all your life inside the car at home.
Yeah, that's another theme that seems to keep coming back. I mean, it's a bit bizarre.
It is quite bizarre. But the concerning thing that really got to me during the Hyundai presser was that they didn't mention privacy. They didn't mention anonymization. They didn't even mention the word encryption, security. They were talking about selling this data for companies to use to sell you services. So insurance companies could use it to sell you insurance based on how you drive.
Yeah, I mean, does that also mean that they know exactly how fast you go at all times?
I would guess that if they're selling you insurance, that they would have access to you speed this often.
And therefore you...
But yeah, you should pay more insurance. But the granularity of the data, it was obviously something they still had a lot to discuss about how they were going to do it and what exactly was going to be included in that. But I frankly found it deeply unnerving.
Talking of deeply unnerving, have you ever seen a car pull out of a parking space on its own and make its way back to you?
Yes, actually, once, today.
That's right. We went to the Hitachi Clarion demo of two car technologies. One was an autonomous car summon technology,
Yeah.
which was designed for use in parking lots.
Much like people have been doing with their Teslas, where they
Much like people have been doing for their Teslas. Hitachi Clarion insist that it's better than Tesla's technology. I know lots of you will say, no, Tesla's the best, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get involved in that argument. So they also had this technology that we've never seen before with a car, and that was using autonomous vehicle sensor tech to detect potholes and humps in the road, not so that necessarily the car could avoid them, but so the car could get ready to go through the pothole or over the hump. And it used that sensor technology to firm up or soften the suspension.
So you don't spill your champagne from your glass?
So you don't spill your champagne. It's kind of bizarre because I've ridden in classic cars, you know, Rolls Royces and all sorts from 50 years ago, plus Citroen DS.
Citroen DS.
You know, and its fantastic suspension.
Yeah,
the hydroelastic suspension of the Mini.
Well, we had an 1100
Yes.
with hydroelastic. It was like riding on a cloud, a slightly stodgy cloud.
And Tesla's air suspension.
Yeah.
So this kind of technology already exists. So I'm not sure where Hitachi Clarion are coming with this. It seems to be a little clunky at the moment, but I could see it working in heavy-duty applications. So if you've got an emergency vehicle that's barreling through a neighborhood that might have potholes, having those sensors adjust the suspension on the fly blisteringly quick could make it easier for medical professionals in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very important possibility.
Thanks for watching this roundup. I know it's been a very long one, but for the rest of the week, we're going to be doing the same kind of thing from the broadcast tower, very posh.
Yes.
Yes.
Get us.
At the North Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center. So make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think of this roundup in the comments below. If you want to support us, Patreon, Ko-fi. But until next time, I'm Nikki Gordon-Bluefield.
I'm Kate Walton-Elliott.
And as always, keep evolving.